Welcome back to Raw News. As part of our coverage of the SU Spring elections, we're interviewing all of the presidential candidates. I'm joined today by Leonardo Palmer. Leo, it's great to have you today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's fantastic. So, we'll go straight into questions. Firstly, why did you decide to stand for office this year?
That's a great question. I decided to stand for office because myself, and as long as I know other students, are feeling the direction of the Students' Union and the university this current year has been disappointing and appalling. I don't think the SU represents students anymore, and I don't definitely know that university does not represent students. This attitude needs to change. There needs to be a full-time officer team and a strong president to tackle this university culture of attacking students, of not listening to demands, and changing the SU's attitude and to listen to students again, to ensure they feel represented and ensure everyone is safe in a happy community. And that's why I'm running.
Can I ask you, what makes you the right person to be the president?
So in terms of my experience, I was elected societies officer in 2018. So I know what the role entails. I know how to do it. I was a successful officer. So I cut red tape for all societies and sports clubs, cutting all the unnecessary paperwork they had to do. Myself, along with the other SABs, we delivered the first ever welcome week to students. So no lectures for 1 week, ensuring they got to know the university and the SU and all the offerings that come to it, be that food, restaurants, activities, getting to know the department, and just enjoying time at Warwick before they get to the grueling academic stuff. I know what it takes to lead a team. I know how to effectively manage the university. I've worked with them before. I know how they tick, and I know exactly which ways to influence student policies. I think I'm the best candidate for the role based on my experience. I hope that everyone does vote for Leo for Prez.
Okay, moving on now to some improvements that you wish to make to the SU. Firstly, I guess, what are your top priorities?
My top priorities, they are three main priorities, and they include improving the SU and also improving the university. So I'm fighting for a safety net for all students. I think it's very disappointing that the university and the SU haven't implemented a safety net and a no detriment policy, even though this whole academic year has been affected by the pandemic. Obviously, last academic year, only a third of the term was affected, a third of the academic year, apologies, was affected, and we had a no detriment policy. We know that York, Newcastle, and UCL student union officers have successfully fought for a safety net for their students. So why haven't our student officers done that? We need a strong president and we need a strong team to fight for students and ensure that everyone has a safety net. Also, including that, we make sure that everyone who's missed out on graduations has a graduation. Obviously, it's a massive part of university. It's an accomplishment and it's a celebration of what they've achieved. And we also want to ensure that everyone who does come back for graduation has free gown hire. There's no point in charging 70, 80 pounds just to celebrate your achievements. And also ensuring that when big events are allowed back in the UK, that we ensure Stuart Cross keeps its promise of a hell of a party, ensuring everyone has fun and enjoys their final time at Warwick. And also, I want to increase funding and decrease fines. Increased funding makes a proactive hardship fund, ensuring that students who are in need of money have the access and accessibility to go to the university and request money if they're suffering from a financial hardship from the pandemic, if they've been left unemployed, if they need to pay their rent as well. And also decreasing the unnecessary student fines that still blight students right now. So there's a £100 fine if you ask for your ID on campus from security and you don't provide it. That is still a thing. That is not necessary, and we need to cut these fines because students are limited on money, and these fines are unnecessary. And we need to ensure that students actually have fun and enjoy the academic life rather than being burdened with all these fines left, right, and centre.
Certainly, a lot of priorities you've mentioned there. I guess, is there any one thing in particular that you aim to improve about the SU next year?
Yeah, so in terms of the SU, I definitely want to address the issues that of not representing students. I think the SU right now and the direction it's currently in on representing students of ethnic minorities, students of white participation, and students who don't feel supported by the SU, who don't know what the SU offers. There's more needs to be done to reach out to students and say, look, we're an SU, we're an effective SU that works for students. It's in the name, it's a students' union. It should work for the needs, rights, and wants of the students, regardless of what that is. And currently, it's not working. So if I'm president, I will actively ensure I'll listen to all student voices, ensure that everyone feels represented by their students' union, and take those needs to the university to fight on their behalf to make sure the university experience is better for all of us students.
Indeed, and on a slightly related point, how would you aim to continue to make campus a more inclusive place for all students?
I think campus right now, obviously, with the current pandemic, is a bit disappointing. I've been on campus a few times before, and it's really quiet. It's very different from when I was a fresher, all the noise and bubbling. But to make campus safer, we know there are lots of issues with students suffering from sexual assault, harassment, and that needs to stop, especially on campus. It's a growing problem, and the university and the SU need to address it. Right now, the waiting times for disciplinaries are extremely long, and that needs to change. Realistically, the university can do it in 2 months, from a complaint coming in to them processing and issuing a statement on what the actions are taken. I'll work proactively with the university to ensure all students feel safe on campus. It's 2021. Consent needs to be something that everyone knows and adheres to, not something they just learn when coming to university. There needs to be a more proactive approach from the student union perspective as well, making sure that everyone is educated and actually ensuring that when people come to the SU seeking advice, obviously if they don't come to the university, because it is quite daunting speaking to staff members, but if they come to the SU, ensuring that they're treated in the appropriate manner, signposted to the relevant people, and ensuring that their voices are heard. And that's what I'll do as president.
No, of course, obviously you've spoken there about a lot of the criticisms the SU has faced recently on sexual violence, but perhaps if I can push you back onto the point of inclusivity, particularly for many marginalised students on campus. Is there anything you would do to continue to make campus more inclusive for these students?
Yes, so in my time at Warwick, I've only seen white presidents. And if I'm elected, hopefully I can be a voice for ethnic minority students that actually feel included by their union. Right now, obviously, with the pandemic, there's nothing much the union can do. Hopefully, when things open up again, if I'm elected president, I can be a voice for those people who don't feel represented by a students' union, who don't feel that there's a place for them. In terms of making sure they do feel included and everything's accessible, I'll make sure I work strongly with all the full-time officers, the part-time officers, liberation groups, society sports clubs, to ensure that people actually have a voice and ensure that they know that their officers are there to actually help them if there are any needs they have. Obviously, we have the Independent Advice Centre to make sure that students who have any issues go to them, but also we're also available for them as well. We're elected by the students, so we're there to listen to their needs, their worries, their issues, and hopefully, if I'm elected president, I will be that voice for all marginalised communities and hopefully push their needs to the university and the local community.
Okay, let's move on now to a different issue. COVID-19. Obviously, the pandemic continues to rage at the moment, although there is certainly increased hope that by the time we get to term one next year, that the situation could significantly improve. So if the COVID situation has improved by term one of next year, what do you believe the return to teaching should look like?
So hopefully things do start coming down. Obviously, this pandemic has affected everyone in very different ways. So hopefully when things do start calm down, we do see a swift return to campus. Depending on the situation, it's hard to speculate what it's going to look like, but a swift return to campus is something I will advocate for. We need to ensure that students are getting the university experience they deserve. They're all paying £9,000 plus for teaching. Currently, that's online. That isn't adequate. So we need to make sure that there's a safe return to campus. First and foremost, we're not going to jeopardize anyone's health, but we also need to make sure that there is a swift return to campus on in-person teaching. But there needs to be consultation about that. There needs to be a consultation of all students saying, is this something that you want? We can't just advocate for something that we believe. We need to make sure that all the student voice is actually heard in what they want. If it's something that the students want, we will definitely push and lobby the university to reopen facilities such as the library, such as study spaces, such as common rooms. So that is the one thing I'll do as president.
Okay, and something else that linked obviously to the impacts of COVID-19 on students has been student mental health. And the pandemic has had a massive effect on students' mental health. And many believe that Warwick's wellbeing system has simply not been up to the task of helping them. So what would you do to solve Warwick's wellbeing crisis?
this pandemic is a horrible situation for students suffering from mental health issues and trying to improve their mental health. Personally, I have suffered a lot during this pandemic. I've suffered a lot just being locked inside, really. It's a very difficult situation for everyone. In terms of what well-being can do, yes, they're constrained to just doing online consultations, online therapy sessions, and it's not something that can last short term. There is a lot of things the university can do. One of my manifesto policies is ensuring that the university wellbeing team send weekly emails to students, reminding them that it's important to do little things to improve their mental health, such as going outside for a walk, ensuring that they are keeping proactive, ensuring that they get their food, their regular intake of nutrients every day. Because right now, the university wellbeing system is only there for people who desperately need it, but they need to be more proactive to reaching out to all students, because everyone is affected by mental health. Everyone needs to improve their mental health, especially in these challenging times. There needs to be more proactive reaching to all students from the university.
Moving on now from mental health to accommodation now. And one of the big announcements from within the last year was Warwick Accommodation ending their leasing of off-campus accommodation. And with also with lockdown preventing people from looking at houses at the moment, there is potentially a student accommodation disaster brewing. What's your plan to address this?
I think that's a great point. I'm slightly disappointed with the university closing down their off-campus accommodation service. I think compared to private landlords, the University of Warwick does provide good value for money for students in accommodation. So it is disheartening to see that they're just leaving students to negotiate with private landlords who won't take their needs seriously, who will just overcharge them, who won't refund their rent back, especially if they're not living in accommodations. As president, I will lobby the university to ensure that they're actually providing services for students and providing help for those in private accommodation. That includes knowing their rights, ensuring that their landlords aren't ripping them off, ensuring that any deposits as well are returned in a swift and safely manner, but also on-campus accommodation as well. Rents are increasing dramatically. I think Bluebell is now over £200 a week. That does need to reduce. I understand the university is treating students and the university as a business, but that attitude needs to stop. Students are there to have a university experience, to learn, to have fun, and to achieve a degree at the end of it. That means reducing rents, that means reducing fines, and ensuring that students have that accessibility to afford places so they can actually have the basic human necessities of a place to eat, a place to sleep, a place to rest.
Similarly linked to accommodation, with the rent strike likely to continue, how will you help support the strikers if elected?
So I think the rent strikers have done a fantastic job. I think they have a very noble cause, and I support them fully in what they're doing. One of my manifesto policies is to provide proactive hardship fund to the students, so signposting them if they are in need of paying their rent. But obviously that doesn't address the issue. It's the issue of private landlords charging students for accommodations that they're not in. And obviously it's a very difficult situation. It's something that the university itself needs to tackle. So as president, I'll obviously meet with the rent strikers. I'll listen to their issues, know that I'm supporting them, because I think it's something that everyone needs to address, something that private landlords actually need to listen to. So I'll take the demands to the university and actually make the university listen and see what approaches the university can help with this, and see if they can tackle private landlords from their end. Obviously, as students, there's nothing we can do proactively to change private landlords. But as a university, they have the experience, the knowledge, and the legal expertise to tackle this issue head on. Currently, they're not doing that. And as president, I will make sure the university is proactively helping these rent strikers with all the necessary tools.
Moving on from rent strikes now to sustainability, and how will you push for a carbon neutral campus?
That's a very good point. I think Warwick, in the time I've been here, and time obviously the students have been here, I've seen many changes on campus. There's new buildings popping up left, right, and centre. Obviously, there's a new building that, coming up on the centre of campus. So most students coming to Warwick will describe it as a building site, which it's a fair comment. But as president, I want to ensure that I want to be the head of the table of all these decision makings and saying what are these buildings entitled of? What are these buildings made of? Are they being carbon neutral? Are they ensuring that they are reaching their carbon neutrality goals in 2030? Are they ensuring that this is made of sustainable materials? Is it in a study space? Are the students' needs at the heart of everything they're building? Because we know that this climate change emergency is something that is very affecting all the students, and is going to affect future generations hardly. We're on campus. Everyone's in every day. We need to make sure the university is actually addressing this, ensuring that everything they do is to provide for the best of students, and that does include carbon neutrality. So I will talk with the university. I will sit on these committees. I will ensure that every decision in the next 5-10 years, whatever they're planning, has to be addressing issues of carbon neutrality on campus.
Just one last question. We've heard a lot, obviously, about what Leo as president would look like. But in terms of Leo the man, what's your bread oven order?
Oh, I've not had a bread oven in ages. I'm so disappointed that I've not had a bread oven. When I was on campus, I used to go every day for lunch. I didn't matter how much money I had. I had very little money, but I love a bread oven. It was always brie cranberry for me, brie and cranberry, and a brown bread, a bit of salads, and I got the meal deal. I got 2 cartons of apple juice along with that, which was fantastic. 2 apple juices and a nice brie and cranberry sandwich was just the perfect way to actually start the day, especially if I had lectures later on that evening. So yeah, and I do really hope to see the bread oven back open soon. I definitely will be one of my first stops to actually going back there.
Leonardo Palmer, it's been fantastic to talk to you today.
Thank you very much, Cam.
So that was Leonardo Palmer, one of the candidates for Student Union President in this year's spring elections. Please remember to vote by Friday the 26th of February. Polls close at 7 p.m. that night. You can vote using the link at the bottom of the screen, warwicksu.com/vote, where you can see all of the other candidates' manifestos. And indeed, if you want to see any of the other hustings that we have done here at Raw for the other candidates, they will be available on our Facebook, on our Twitter, and on YouTube as well. And please fill in the exit poll as well on Raw to 12:51 a.m. social media, which we will reveal at the start of our big decision program on Friday night at 9 p.m. But until then, it's been a pleasure to interview Leo today. Have a good rest of your day.
Across campus, online, and on 12:51 a.m. This is your student radio station.